Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a Thursday, Throwback Thursday, ZiFM Sport, the lockdown edition. Welcome to it. This is a show that's short, sharp and sweet as we take you closer to your sports stars. My name is Sean Tafreniga. I'm the producer of ZiFM Sport. I hope you're being safe. Tonight on the show, we feature an Arsenal legend. Some call him the Flying Dutchman. Others call him the non-flying Dutchman because of his fear of flying. Usually, I ask you to guess who it is, but in this case, I've given it away. It's a dead giveaway.
Hi, I'm Vario's coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
Bergkamp. Perez. Wilton makes a run ahead of it. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent. The move. And then this, which left Davies Ass totally stranded.
Now, there have been so many great players over the years for Arsenal. Dennis Bergkamp is one of those who has secured a spot in the club's pantheon. The man was an artist with the football, and among his goals were some masterpieces. Let's hear from Dennis Bergkamp in his chat with Arsenal media liaison officer Josh James.
Well, I remember when I first joined, and the first few weeks we had pre-season at London Colney, and the confidence the players had in me was already there. I mean, they were smiling, they were asking me questions, they were helping me in certain ways how to fit in, and that helped me a lot in the beginning, because I came from 2 years Italy where it was very hectic and a lot of promises were made, but they didn't follow it up. So it was, basically a few lies there. And slowly I was building on that confidence again in the first few weeks. And I always said the English mentality suited me very well to fit in. And there were a lot of English players there who helped me just by being there, but also by talking to me and helping me around the football pitch.
And your first game was Middlesbrough at home at Highbury. Tell us your emotions first of all that day, pulling on the Arsenal shirt for the first time. Were there any nerves there? It seems an odd question, but as a new start for you, it's a new start for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, of course there were some nerves, but yeah, I always call it good nerves, because it was full stadium. It's great atmosphere. The English League always been fantastic for me, and I think it was a great day for me. And as you said, it was a new start, and it felt that way because, as I said, I came from 2 years Italy where, more or less it was difficult. It was a good time, but it was difficult in a way that I couldn't really enjoy my football, and I was hoping to find that in England again, and that was the start.
What did you think about the dressing room, the atmosphere in an English club dressing room? Was it much different to what you'd known in Italy and in Holland, or was it pretty much, if you know a football dressing room, they're all pretty much the same?
The big difference was in Holland. It was very quiet in the dressing room. It was a lot of young players who wanted to show their emotions, but really couldn't before games because that wasn't allowed. In Italy, it was very serious. But as I find in England, the music was loud and everybody was talking to each other and laughing, as if it seemed as if they weren't really focusing on on the game or the training sessions, but in the end, once everyone was on the pitch, then they showed 100% commitment. So that was a learning process for me as well, because it was more relaxed in a way, but they could switch from dressing room atmosphere to perform on the pitch, and that was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, and I guess there were some characters in that dressing room who you might not have met people like before. I'm thinking of people like Ian Wright and Ray Parlour. Tell us your first impressions of people like Wrighty and Ray.
Yeah, well, everyone knows, of course, the story from Ian and me when I signed for Arsenal, which was weeks before pre-season, that I bumped into him on the petrol station and on the motorway. Yeah, he fell into my arms and he was smiling and he was looking forward to the season and stuff. So it was one in 100 million chance that I would meet up with him. But maybe it was a sign as well, because I really felt at home from the beginning. As I said, not only the English league, but the mentality of the people, and as you know, there were a lot of English players at that time, and I fitted in perfectly, because I understood the humor, I understood the sarcasm and the cynical way of approaching things, but I enjoyed their mentality as well. As I said, like from on the pitch, on the training sessions, in games, they would give 100%, and there was time to relax around those games and training sessions, and I really enjoyed that.
And you obviously got on well off the pitch, and as you said, it worked on the pitch as well, because I think throughout your time at Arsenal you created more goals for Ian Wright than any other player. What was it about that partnership that worked so well? Because it was new, you didn't have that much time to work on it, and there you were creating goals for him from the beginning.
Yeah, and when I realized and I look back on my career, I always enjoyed playing together with a striker who was known for making goals, scoring goals, and I was the one to assist. I always fitted perfectly in that role. I didn't mind other players to score more goals than me. I enjoyed setting them up, and then you look at the partnership and you look at the striker, then. You want him to how do you say that, to complement each other, to like my thought was to set him to get him free in front of the goalkeeper, and he would make those runs, and if you look at every partnership I've had, it was successful because there was a click, you understood each other, and with Ian was my first partnership, and that was from the beginning it was perfect, because the only thing on his mind was scoring goals.
Yeah.
And for the player playing behind him, I just had to get myself in a certain position to pass that ball. And then that it looked easy sometimes, but it's so important to have that click with each other, and I'm happy that I've had that click with a lot of players. But for me it was perfect, of course, to start at Arsenal, to have a click with Ian.
And you had a season under Bruce Rioch, who brought you to the club before Arsene Wenger arrived. Can you remember your first meeting with Arsene? How that was like? Did you have a one-on-one soon after he arrived?
I don't think so, no. I do remember that it was kind of a shock that they had to let Bruce go, because we had a not the best of seasons in 95, 96, but I think it was good enough to progress to the next season with a lot of confidence. But that wasn't meant to be, and that was a certain period, was from, I think, the moment he got let off till Arsene came. I think that was about a few months, which was an insecure time for me, because I was remembering the lies from Italy again. And I was thinking, okay, wait a minute, what's going to happen now? So there was some doubts in my mind, but that was soon taken away when Arsene came, because he was, of course, the one who had philosophy that suited my philosophy and was the same, and it suited my game, his philosophy, and therefore there were no doubts once he took over.
But with Arsene, he particularly loved to coach young players and bring them through in his style. I mean, Thierry was obviously young when he brought him in, Patrick Vieira. But with you were, the finished article. He didn't need to do that. So what was your relationship with him? Because you didn't need much coaching in that sense, did you? How did it work between you and him?
Well, we understood each other. I think I mentioned this before along my career, but when I played at Ajax, there were only 2 teams in the world who played 4-3-3. Ajax was one of them, and AS Monaco was the other one. And at that time, it was coached by Arsene. So, yeah, I knew when he came in, studying the background, that he was a coach who would play offensive football. He was a serious guy. So I didn't consider myself the finished article at that time, but I think he had no doubts of me, because the young players he was developing, he wanted to develop to a player like me, I guess. So there was a good understanding, and from day one we knew what we expected from each other, and that's why it worked, I guess.
So, with Arsene, you must have had a lot of freedom. Did you feel like that when you're on the pitch, to a certain extent, you had a free role in games, or was he more regimented than that and said, actually, like, these are the runs I want you to make, or did he give you that freedom?
Yeah, offensively, he always gave the whole team basically a lot of freedom. Of course, we did a lot of pattern play in training, a lot of offensive exercises. But in those exercises, we got a lot of freedom. So it may have looked that, that there was a lot of good football and a lot of different sort of attacks. But we trained those exercises a lot.
And you mentioned you got on well with the English players, and then Mark Overmars came in. That must have helped you as well, did it, to have a fellow Dutchman around the place?
Yeah, it was different, of course, because I went to Inter with a Dutchman, of course, and for me it wasn't really a necessary thing. It's not something I needed, something I was looking for. It just came in handy for the team to have a player with pace, and it worked out well. I've had some good connection with quick players, of course. Nicolas Anelka was one of them. As I said, it can suit my game as well to have those players who go for goal, who go forward, and as long as they understand that that's very dangerous and that's difficult to defend for the opponents, then you can get some good games and good players around.
Yeah, so you said you don't necessarily need your fellow countrymen around you at a club to feel at home. What about off the pitch then? Who were you socialising with from that team at the time?
The best example is Patrick Vieira, because we got on really well off the pitch. Once the years progressed, I had a lot of contact with players who played golf, for example. I spent a lot of time with Fig Akers, of course, the kid man who played a lot of golf, and Ray Parler was there, which was quite funny. But in the end, you have to understand that you play a lot of games. You see each other every day. Once you're off, and you got some time off, so some days off, you wanna spend time with your family, of course. So I think the atmosphere in the dressing room was always good. So the 5-6 hours you spend a day with that team, it's just great to have a good atmosphere around you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the golf, because I know that you tried to... Patrick wasn't a natural golfer at first, was he? I think you had to show him the way a bit. Is there any stories of him in and around the green? He was a bit lethal, wasn't he, when he didn't know his power?
Yeah, it's a dangerous player. I think he wasn't a natural golfer. He enjoyed the game, but he was still learning, I guess. And I think I can say that I was a little bit further, not as far as the English players, but I think I could beat him on the golf course.
Was that competitive? Were those games competitive? I know you trained pretty much how you played that team, but when it came to golf and you're trying to relax, were those games also competitive?
No, it was just relaxing, and then we had a lot of fun. And as I said, you got some characters on the golf course, like Ray Parler and Vic Akers, of course, and Paul, his son. So we spent a lot of time on the golf course just enjoying it, talking about football, talking about games, about the season, but also about other things, just having fun. And that was the idea for us, to just get your mind off the game, because as you can imagine, those are busy times. There was with a lot of games during the season, a lot of competitions, and on the day off you just want to clear your head and have a good round.
And you mentioned Vic, who you were very close with. The two of you often seen together at the training ground, whatever, playing jokes on people and always hanging around. And of course, you spent a lot of time with him driving to games when you weren't flying. He was the guy at the wheel, is that right? Driving you all over the country and sometimes into Europe?
No. The thing was that there came a period that the team started to go to the English games, the league games. By plane as well, like Newcastle, Manchester, those sort of distances. We used to do it by train, but there was a time when they started going by plane. So I had to get there as well, of course. So we went in like a minivan with Vic and me. So there was a driver there, and just the two of us in the back, putting our feet up and listening to the radio. He just joined me otherwise I was traveling alone, and we had a good bond. We had a good connection with each other, and he sacrificed himself to travel with me. And in the end, he had some quiet time as well. So I think he enjoyed it.
You must have spent a lot of time together over those years in the car. What were you chatting about? What would be the topics of conversation?
Well, for me, of course, because Vic is out and out English. He knows the game. He's been there for many years. He knows different sides of the game, different leagues. He knows a lot of people. So for me, it was quite enjoyable to just talk about stuff he knew, which was English, which developed me as well as a person. And at the same time, we were talking about the game of the next day, or the game that we played during the week, or maybe planning a round of golf already, that sort of stuff. It would go every direction where we would talk about.
And talking about some of the partnerships on the pitch, you mentioned some of the strikers, but let's get to Thierry Henry, because when he arrived and came into the team soon became built around him, didn't it? And trying to get the ball to him for him to score. Did you prefer that in a way, that now there was a new focal point of the team and there was a big expectation on somebody else maybe to get the goals?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was right. And as I said before, I think during my career I always enjoyed having a partner, a striking partner who would be able to score goals, and I could play my role behind him, or not being in the spotlight was okay for me. I was never looking for the main focus on me. I always said it's a team game, and in those teams you need certain players who can make the difference. You have those players in the back. They don't want the team to concede goals, and you have those players up front. And I see myself as the connection between the defenders or the midfielders and the front players. And there were players who could finish it off. And Wrighty was one of those players. Anelka was one of those players. But Henry was, of course, maybe the best player in that role that I've ever seen, because it was so easy to have a connection with him, because he's got a game that on every level and he can be the best. He was the best at a certain time. So that was easy to play with.
And he became a creator as well, more and more as he went on. There was that season, I think he got 20 assists. Did he ever speak to you about that side of the game? Because goal scoring seemed to come naturally to him, but when he became more of a creator, did he get your advice on that?
No. Well, if you come across those sort of players, you just realize that they have so much talent that, maybe sometimes he was thinking, okay, to be the top scorer of the league, it will take me 60-70% of my game. I want to do more because he was that good at that time. And he was, I guess, developing his own game as well. And part of that was assisting other players. He could really enjoy that as well. And in some training sessions, you would see him defend like you've never seen that before. And he always found a challenge in the game itself, whether it was assisting or goal scoring or defending, or if people would say that a player of the opponents was very quick, I guess he was thinking, okay, let's see how quick he is, because I want to be the quickest, you know. That's how he played his game. He was always looking for a challenge, always looking to become better and to show everyone how good he was. And that's ideal to have such a player in your team.
And what about the captains you played under? Because you started with Tony Adams was there, then Patrick Vieira, of course. Were you someone who ever really needed the guidance of captains and that sort of influence in the dressing room, or did you see yourself as your own leader and you didn't particularly need that guidance from a captain?
I think you've got different sorts of leaders in the dressing room. You've got one who is the most experienced guy in the dressing room, who's got the armband, who's got the respect of all the players, who can say the right things. And I've been lucky enough at Arsenal to have those players as captains, like Tony Adams. He was out and out captain. He knew exactly what to say. He would be up in front to go to battle, to win games, to win the fight, to have a go at the referees, to protect his players. Patrick was, of course, the one who had to follow Tony Adams, which was very difficult, but he approached it in a slightly different way, maybe a little bit more gentle, but on the pitch he was like a warrior. He was not holding back and used his power to lift others. Cherry was, of course, in his way a leader that leader by example, like that. That's our best player, so we're gonna follow him, and he was expecting certain things of his teammates as well, and he would show that. He was always like that. I mean, the captaincy didn't change him. I think that was his quality. He was always like that, whether he was a captain or not. He was always leading by example. And as I said, if you pick those three captains that I've had at Arsenal, then you don't have that in other teams, in other clubs. I don't think so.
No.
Those three players, if you mention that, them three, it's amazing. I mean, you can't wish for anything more.
And you were known to be a perfectionist in training every single day, giving everything, and that's what Arsene Wenger particularly said about you. It was so impressive that every single session from minute one to the end you were there giving everything. But surely there must have been days when you needed motivating. Were you that self-motivating all the time, or did you need some people around you at times to say, come on, it's, put it in today, it's another day?
No, I must admit, I always loved playing football, and apart from, I think, my last 1 or 2 seasons where my body was struggling a little bit with some minor injuries, apart from that period, I always enjoyed going to training, and it's some sort of challenge as well for me, to show what you can do. I mean, all my career, people looked at me like the one who had to make a difference on the pitch. So that's my motivation. It's not like I can do a session or whatever without trying to be the best. I can't allow that. That's my character. Maybe it doesn't show all the time from the outside, but inside I just want to be the best, and I want to compete, and I more or less don't like it if anyone else win a game or had a better cross or a better pass or whatever. I was always trying to be the best, and that's you can't switch that on and off, I guess. That's a character thing, and then you as soon as you walk on the pitch, you see a ball and you start training or playing a game, then you've got that motivation right away.
But of course there's lots of players who weren't like that, who didn't have that motivation maybe to the same degree. How frustrating was that?
Yeah, I couldn't stand that. Yeah, it was so difficult for me to understand that people could play like that, be like that on the pitch. I mean, it's great that you can play football and you can play football for a lot of money. You can play for full stadiums, and everything is arranged for you. How can you not enjoy that? And how can you just come to a training session giving 60 or 70%? I could not understand that if players weren't motivated.
Did you ever have to call anybody out? I'm thinking maybe towards the end of your career when you were captain in the team as well on occasions. Did you ever have to pull players to one side and say, look, this isn't good enough, this is not what we do here?
Well, to be fair, that's been a part of me from the start of my career. I always found it very difficult if players wouldn't give 100%. And for example, if they were doing other things off the pitch and had a big mouth, or you could see them here and there, or were doing things that weren't right in my mind, then in training sessions I would take that with me. So there've been some bad tackles from me, or some fouls or whatever. That was my way of showing it.
Rather than telling them, they would know then if they got on the end of one of your tackles that they'd done something wrong.
Yeah, exactly, because that was my way. I wasn't the guy who was shouting at people like, what are you doing, or whatever, but I would show my frustration in training.
And did that happen in games as well? Because we know you did have, sometimes you got a little bit wound up by the opposition, shall we say?
Can't remember. No, you were right. There were a few times that the competitive side of me went over a certain line, and then I did something that I shouldn't have done. But it's a fine line, I must admit. But I needed it to do well. My wife always told me during my career, I hope that you get kicked in the first minute, because then you're so aggressive, and there's a certain way of playing that it gives you 20-30% more. And I think she was right, because I remember a Southampton game at their ground where this left back, I don't know his name, was an Italian name. He was winding me up all the time.
Francis Benali, I think.
Yeah, and he was winding me up all the time, and it just gave me something extra. So apart from the 100% I always gave, that gave me a little bit extra, I guess. and sometimes I went over the line, but it helped me. It helped me in my way of playing.
Yeah, Lee Dixon tells a story about you doing that to him, I think, in a training session before a weekend. You remember that? Yeah,
well, to be fair, there were a lot of players I've had a little bust up with in training sessions, but it was all with respect. It was all cleared once we hit the showers, because then you just apologize. I apologize. I remember Lee apologized once, like, and I can't even remember what it was about on the training pitch, but I do remember the apology. So that says a lot about the team, that we were helping each other to progress, to develop, and those things on the pitch, we left it on the pitch, and we just carried on because it made us stronger. I do believe that you have to train as you play, otherwise you won't progress.
And then when you came to the last couple of years at Arsenal, there were a few younger players coming through who were looking up to you. I'm thinking people like Robin van Persie who would see you as a mentor. What was your role with people like that? Was it more leading by example, or was it taking them to one side, even coaching them? How did you deal with that?
Well, there were guys, of course, who were coming in where at first you don't have a connection with, but you just see what they can do. And I think Fabregas was a great example. He came in, he was very quiet, very respectful to the players, and suddenly he found himself in between big names, and he was just developing himself, and just quietly, not a big mouth, and just trying to get better every year. And well, you can see what kind of career he had, because he had the right mindset, he had the right approach to his start of the game. There were other players, who came into the first team with the training sessions. They had a big mouth, they were arrogant, and they had an attitude like, okay, we're gonna show those experienced players how it's done. And funny enough, or not funny enough, you don't hear from them anymore, because they didn't have the right attitude, they didn't have the right approach. With Robin van Persie, he had some problems in Holland, of course, with his old team, former team. But as soon as he came, there was a connection, because the image he had in Holland was that he was very arrogant. What I said before, so some sort of player who got the wrong attitude. But as soon as he came, he had a lot of respect for us, and he started training sessions, and he didn't have a big mouth, and he was learning, and he was asking questions. My wife got on with his wife, so slowly you build a relationship, and that's mainly on the pitch. I was trying to lead by example, and he mentioned that a few times, that he was learning from that, and off the pitch as well. We had a few talks about certain things, about the Dutch national teams and that sort of stuff, where he could learn from. And I enjoyed just sharing my experience in those situations.
You always looked very at home at Arsenal, and you always seemed to be enjoying life on and off the pitch. And in comparison with other players, you rarely got linked with a move away. But was there ever a moment that you came close to leaving Arsenal?
For myself, no. I did understand that Arsenal at some point, and I think I was in my 7th or 8th season, I'm not sure, Arsene asked me the question if I wanted to leave, because then they would help me or work with me. They wouldn't mind that, which was a strange question, of course, but in the end I said no, because I wanted to stay at Arsenal. And I remember at that time that I started in the years after having a good run. Like I don't know if you remember, but it was at the end of each season, towards the end of my career, there was always question of retiring or having one more year, and in the end I think I signed 2 or 3 times 1 year extension to my contract. So I think besides of that one time that Arsene asked me, which was a question, to be fair, but I straight away said no, because I wanted to finish my career at Arsenal, and there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to go to another club, country, or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess the fans wouldn't let you leave anyway at that time. As you said, it was always one more year. You got to near the end of the season, and that's what all the fans were singing at you. That must have played a part, did it?
Yeah, definitely, because I felt at home. I didn't want to leave. I mean, at the time I was in my 30s, and you don't want to go to another club to help building a new team or whatever. And I had the feeling that we were really becoming a better team each year. In a different way than my like 98, for example. But we were slowly building to be a really settled European team. and I wanted to be part of that. And I felt that I had enough in me. And I was happy that I could show that toward the end of my career.
And just before we finish, we've spoken a lot about your teammates today. And if you speak to Thierry Henry, Lee Dixon, Ian Wright, most of these players will say you were the best player that they played with. So I want to ask you, who was the best player that you ever played with?
I've had that question a lot of times. I find it very difficult to say, because I was lucky enough to play with the back four, like the back four we had in the beginning of my career at Arsenal, because I've never seen that a back four and with a goalkeeper is so connected to each other that was amazing. Yep. But of course you would go for the obvious best player like Thierry, which basically is probably true, because he was the most gifted player I've seen, and I've seen it not only in games, of course, but also in training sessions. He was most of the time training. It seemed like he was training at 70-80%, and he was still by far the best player. That was a ridiculous time, because he was so good. I played with Patrick Vieira, which was a player who could change games. Even in those days, he would by himself change the whole midfield. Everyone knows the game, his first game, when he came on at halftime and he completely changed the game. Yeah, how can you compare those players to each other, Henry to Vieira or to the back four? I find it very difficult. Pires, I mean, what a player he was. Freddie Ljungberg, maybe he wasn't the most gifted player, but how effective, how decisive was he? The back players who came after, like Kolo Touré or Sol Campbell. I mean, as I said, I've been lucky to play with a lot of good players, but to name the best player, it's really difficult. Really difficult, because
impossible.
Each and everyone in their own position was very important to the team.
Okay, and just looking back on your playing days and your time at Arsenal, what do you miss most about that time?
Everything. I mean, going to the training ground, you miss the dressing room, you miss going on the pitch and hit a few balls, having a training session, moan at the assistant managers and stuff. That's all sort of things you just miss. And I've been in coaching, I've been in other roles in football, but nothing compares to playing football. So that's a miss, but in the end you've got a lot of good memories about it, so I've been lucky that way.
And do you have any plans to come back to Arsenal in any capacity? As you said, you've done coaching. What are you up to now?
Well, in the last 1 or 2 years we were discussing this within the family, of course, because I do miss England, I do miss football. I've tried it in Holland, which in the end didn't work out for certain reasons. But we still got on our mind to go back to England someday and see what happens, because I miss being on the pitch and being around the football team, the players, the atmosphere. So I do see a future, but when that is, I'm not sure yet.
Have you had any contact with the people at Arsenal? Because there's obviously a lot of former players involved at the club.
Yeah, I do have contact with players, ex-players, so to speak. And I know that once I stopped at Ajax, that my agent asked if he would inform in England or at Arsenal, but I said no, it's not the time at the moment to do something. But as I said, in the future, I don't know. But wait and see what happens.
Fantastic interview on the life and times of Dennis Bergkamp. It often seems like the football field is populated by those who just play the game for money. They may be blessed with incredible athletic talent and can do great things with the football at their feet, but it's almost like they resent doing what they do, but not Bergkamp. I mean, he played with a childish glee throughout the course of his career. The attitude, along with his willingness to do unconventional things with the football, is what helped him score those incredible goals. It's why he's ranked among other great Arsenal players like Thierry Henry, Tony Adams, Ian Wright, and Patrick Vieira. I certainly hope that you enjoyed it. Dennis Bergkamp, the Flying Dutchman, or the non-Flying Dutchman. Regardless, one thing that's true and absolute, he is a legend.